Namaste. Welcome to the Hindu Dharma Basics and Beyond podcast, a podcast that gives you authentic knowledge covering broad topics on Hinduism, the ancient Vedic wisdom. This podcast is based on the book by the same name by Pujya Swami Viditatmananda, one of the most respected scholars and teachers of Advaita Vedanta today. This episode answers the following questions. What is the importance of Ramayana in the Hindu way of life? Was it right of Rama to abandon Sita in the forest? Are there different versions of the Ramayana in different languages other than the Valmiki Ramayana? Let's get to the subject matter of this episode straight away. What is the importance of Ramayana in the Hindu way of life? The Ramayana has played and continues to play a very important role in molding the life of the Hindus. Lord Rama is not just some unconnected historic figure. The stories of both the Ramayana and Mahabharata are so closely woven into the life of the Hindus that the characters depicted in them have become a part of their lives. The Ramayana epitomizes the role of a devoted son, a devoted husband, a devoted wife, devotion to the duty of a brother to brother, ideal father, ideal mother, an ideal household life, etc. The characters of Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, Hanuman, Shabari, Jatayu, and others have become role models in the life of the Indian people. This is a beautiful way of teaching the values. If the values are presented as commandments, as absolute values, it becomes difficult to understand and follow them because we do not know, for example, what it means to be honest and truthful in various situations. The values have to be interpreted according to time, place, and conditions. Following a value often brings about conflict and calls for sacrifice of what we like to do. All this is demonstrated by people who live a life of righteousness. We learn these values from their lives, not just from injunctions to follow values. Values are sometimes difficult to follow and cause us to feel guilty when we are unable to follow them. Yet we see that great people have also erred while trying to follow Dharma. In the story of the Ramayana, Lord Rama chases after a golden deer when Sita spots it. She wants him to get it for her. Despite his misgivings, he did go after it, only because he wanted to please Sita. There is a conflict here. Should Rama go after the deer despite his misgivings, only to please his wife? As Rama suspected, a demon called Maricha had taken the form of the golden deer. His true form becomes evident when Lord Rama kills the deer. In the voice of Rama, he screams loudly, "Hey Lakshmana, hey Sita!" Hearing this, Sita feels that Lord Rama is in danger and in need of help. So she asks Lakshmana to go to Sri Rama's help. Lakshmana says, "Mother, I cannot go because Sri Rama has asked me to stay with you and not leave you alone. This region is infested with demons and you need protection." But Sita insists. There is conflict here too. Should Lakshmana follow his elder brother's directions or the order of the elder brother's wife, who he reveres? Throughout the Ramayana, we see several instances where different people were faced with dilemmas. based on the decision taken by them. We learn how decision making is influenced in times of conflict and suffering, and in times of triumph as well. Satyameva Jayate. Ultimately, the truth alone wins. Since sage Valmiki presents Rama as an ideal human being, some people question Rama's actions with reference to his wife Sita. Was it right of Rama to abandon Sita by banishing her to the forest merely on the basis of some gossip? Since this is a common question not addressed in the book, I asked Puja Swami Viditatmananda about it. He helps us to answer this doubt if it occurs in our mind. Let's listen to Puja Swamiji himself.
Valmiki Ramayana presents Rama as an ideal human being more than a god, so that his conduct can be imitated by us. Yes, when you follow values, there are going to be conflicts because in dharma, the values in a given situation, there can be more than one demands from us. There can be dharma in case of Lord Rama, dharma as king, and dharma as husband. These two dharmas had an opposite demand from him. He chose to follow the dharma of the king, therefore had to sacrifice dharma of as husband. But understand, we keep on saying that he abandoned his wife. If you read Rama, you realize that he not only abandoned Sita, he abandoned himself also. And from that on, he lived the life of a penance and austerity. He did not live as a king. So he abandoned Sita, he abandoned himself as well. He suffered as much as she did, and it was at that time his judgment, based on the norms existing in that time, that his dharma as king was more important than his dharma as husband. And not only sacrificed the comfort of his wife, he also sacrificed his own comfort, and therefore we cannot say that he abandoned Sita or he put her to all kinds of troubles, but he also underwent that. Thus, similar situations arisen earlier also when there are conflicts, such as even going to forest also. Mother says one thing, father says another thing, the citizens say a different thing, and he has to determine what his dharma is. So these questions could be raised on other occasions as well, and therefore we can say that Lord Rama followed dharma in keeping with the norms existing at that time. It's not fair to judge what was done thousands of years ago based on the norms existing today. And therefore, this is how the dharma is, which always involves conflict, requires choices. But in any case, the choice in dharma should be one of personal sacrifice. And this is what Lord Rama has done in every case. He has always sacrificed himself, whether it is going to forest or going to doing anything that he has done. Self-sacrifice is the principle of dharma, which is what Lord Rama has followed. Now, how to interpret a given situation may be subject to debate, and we may debate that. But the basic spirit of dharma has been followed here in whatever Lord Rama has done.
Are there many different versions of the Ramayana in different languages other than the Valmiki Ramayana? About 500 years ago, Saint Tulsidas penned the famous Ramcharitmanas, which also describes the life of Lord Rama. Sri Tulsidas composed the Ramcharitmanas in the Awadhi dialect prevalent at that time so that the common people could have access to it and understand it. He depicts Rama more as God than as a prince or human being. Bhakti or devotion is the principal message delineated in this work. The emphasis of the Valmiki Ramayana is on righteousness. Also, there are many versions and adaptations of the epic. Since the earliest times until now, it has been rendered into multiple languages by numerous scholars from Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, and Sikh traditions, both in India and outside, in countries such as Cambodia, Indonesia, Thailand, China, Burma, and Malaysia. Although the basic story of the subsequent regional versions is the same, there are some variations because the later poets and authors have described certain events differently. In summary, the Ramayana is a glorious epic. We find that its influence stretches across centuries, countries, and cultures. Valmiki's Ramayana and all local versions of Ramayana in each state have inspired the people of Bharat by imparting lessons in various spheres such as statecraft, conduct, family, and societal values. It emphasizes the importance of goodness, justice, love, and sacrifice of one's personal likes and dislikes for the larger good. It highlights the undesirable consequences of greed and lust and the ills of power and covetousness. In the Ramayana, we find living examples of the highest moral values. It is an epic in the true sense of the word. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Swamini Vidyananda, a Hindu monk and teacher of Vedanta, the Vedic wisdom that liberates. Do write to me at hindudharmabasics@gmail.com if you have any questions about what was shared in this episode. I thank Dr. Savitri Ramaya, a dear friend, who puts the final valuable editing touches on these podcast episodes. In our next episode, we will discover the divinity of Lord Rama as portrayed in the Ramcharitmanas by Sri Tulsidas Goswamiji. We end with a prayer. Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Satyameva Jayate. Truth alone conquers.